They hid a scandal inside an Instagram collab, used my face as the mask, and told vendors I was old, grateful, and cheap. I found the texts. Then I booked a stage, invited every sponsor, and hit play. Hey, I'm Jocelyn, 25, broadcasting from Atlanta. If you believe in receipts, in calm voices smashing loud lies, hit like and subscribe. Stories like this deserve a witness. Let's begin. They thought I'd stay quiet. That I'd swallow the knot in my throat, smile for the camera, and carry a brand on my back while they carved my name off the profits. They thought wrong. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who called you friend, buckle in. Because the night I switched the projector feed and put the text thread on a 30-foot screen in front of Atlanta's favorite influencers? That's the night a whole room learned what receipts look like in daylight. I'm Jocelyn. I co-host a podcast out of Atlanta, and this is how my best friend mistook my kindness for fear, and how I taught her the difference. My mother raised me on 2 rules. Return every casserole dish you borrow and keep your receipts. The first is about respect. The second is about survival. By the time I was 52, I didn't think I needed survival skills for friendship. I co-host a show called Speak Plain, Think Southern Candor with a microphone. My co-host was my best friend Sloan. Gorgeous curls, finance brain, knows how to cut a reel so clean the algorithm blushes. She slid into my life 5 years ago with a smile that said, I see you. She brought sponsorships. I brought the audience. We built a rhythm. I'd tell the story, she'd track the money. We made something that felt like church, and happy hour had a baby. Then came the idea that would make us unignorable. Sloan pitched it in our studio, honeyed voice dripping over the words like sorghum on a biscuit. Women of Atlanta, amplified, she said, waving her phone, the app open on a grid of glossy faces. A citywide IG collab. We spotlight small, women-owned businesses in themed drops. Beauty, food, bookstores, you name it. They pay small fees for feature slots. We do reels, lives, cross-posting. We build a directory and host a pop-up brunch. We're not just podcasts, we're a platform. It was perfect. It felt generous. We called it ATL Amplify. I sketched out a content calendar with colored tabs. Sloan set up the application form and payment processing, said she'd manage the back end. We split responsibilities the way you split a pie when you trust each other. Eyes closed, forks ready. The first whisper of wrongness wasn't a shout. It was a slip. An accidental text. Monday morning, coffee balanced on a stack of show notes, I got a ping. Sloan, she'll be grateful for scraps. The women empowerment shtick is her brand. She won't ask questions. I stared. The bubble blinked again. Sloan. Oop. Wrong thread. Disregard. Disregard. When your best friend calls your life's work shtick, you want to reread it until it means something else. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself it wasn't about me. I told myself the truth could be softer if I carried it carefully. The knot in my stomach didn't care for careful. It tightened a little and stayed. As ATL Amplify ramped up, little things glitched. Vendors DM'd me asking where their reels were, why their tag went missing in the carousel. A florist messaged that the premium slot she paid for ended up buried at midnight. A bakery owner called near tears because a giveaway partnership fee didn't come with the promised feature, just an oops and a pat reply. We'll make it right next month. Next month didn't come. Every time I asked Sloan, she had a spreadsheet and a smile. Growing pains. She'd shrug, tapping cells with red flag yellow highlights. I'm fixing it. Don't worry people with details, Joe. That's why I'm here. Don't worry people with details. That line is a lullaby for the gullible. I have slept through worse. I stayed polite. I apologized to vendors, promised follow-ups. Sloan promised me those follow-ups were sent. I believed her because it was easier than believing my friend would play me. Then came the sponsor dinner at a midtown rooftop, the one where the skyline looks like someone lined up glass trophies and dared the sun to brag. Sloan did her usual, lips glossy, blazer crisp, eyes sparkling with ambition. She held court. I watched her laugh with a brand rep from a beverage company who'd just inked a deal, huge for us. My heart warmed. We were doing it. Photos, Sloane called, and everyone arranged themselves. She squeezed my shoulder, nails sweetly biting. Say amplify. I said it and I meant it. 2 nights later, I was in bed, melatonin failing, when my phone buzzed with a new vendor complaint. I padded to my desk in socks, opened my laptop, and went to the payment portal I hadn't touched since we launched. The login failed. I tried the old password, the new password, the backup email. Locked out. My knuckles went cold, then hot. I texted Sloane. Me. Need the login. Vendor issues. Sloane. On a date? Tomorrow? So I watched the typing bubble appear, disappear, reappear like a shy ghost. Sloane. People will always whine, Joe. You're too soft. I'll handle it. Too soft. I closed my phone and stared at my dark window. Outside, a siren sighed and faded. In the quiet, I heard my mother's voice. Keep your receipts. So I started collecting. At first, it was small. Screenshots of DMs, names and dates, promises made. I built a document and gave it a boring title you'd scroll past. I wasn't sure what I was hunting. I just knew I was hunting. Then, on a Thursday that smelled like rain, the florist sent me a PDF of her invoice. $500 for a front-page feature package. I checked our public pricing. 200 tops. Who quoted you 5? I asked. She replied with a number and a cat emoji. I froze. It was Sloane's business line. I took a walk to think, past the mural in Old Fourth Ward that always looks like it's breathing, past a kid doing wheelies, past 2 women arguing in beautiful cadence over hair appointments. The city held me in its hum. I asked myself the ugliest question I could think of. What if Sloane is stealing? The knot pulled tight enough to change my posture. That night, I called one of our earliest vendors, a tiny bookshop owner named Tasha. Her voice was tired but steady. Jocelyn, I paid $250 and I ain't mad at the money, she said. I'm mad at the disappearing. I'm mad at paying to vanish. Who took it? I asked gently. She exhaled. Girl, I don't want to make trouble. Trouble's made, I said. I'm trying to unmake it. It was Sloane, she whispered. She said it was the executive rate for the directory. Said you insisted. My breath went shallow. She used my name? Yeah, Tasha said after a beat. She said you wanted to filter out the unserious folks. I thanked her and hung up. My hands shook. I scrolled to Sloane's chat, and as if my phone could taste the bitter, the screen slipped. I accidentally tapped search. A list of our old keywords bloomed. Invoice, rate, sponsor, refund. On a reflex honed by a life in audio, I tapped refund. There it was. A thread with someone labeled K, all venom and casual cruelty. Sloane. Refund? For what? Lol, she's 50-something with a podcast. She should be thanking me for attention. K. You're generous. Sloane, please. I'm strategic. I push her to the front, take the money at the back, and when she starts asking questions... We pivot, TK, to Sloane, new host, younger. PR will be simple. Creative differences. My vision tunneled. The edges of the screen blurred. I took a breath through my nose and tasted tin. Then my phone vibrated again. A new message from Kay to Sloane. A bomb of 3 screenshots. One was my headshot. One was a mock-up of ATL Amplify's landing page, without my face. The third was a spreadsheet of premium slots, with dollar amounts that made my stomach drop. I realized my best friend was playing puppet show with my name. I also realized that the wrong thread text she'd sent me weeks ago wasn't a slip. It was a summary. I didn't sleep that night. I cataloged. I filed. I listed every vendor who'd reached out and who hadn't. I made a chart of promised deliverables versus actual posts. At sunrise, my mirror reflected a woman with papery eyes and an expression I hadn't seen since my divorce. Not rage, not grief, but their quiet child, resolve. I told myself I would talk to Sloane. I would give her a chance. Then I opened Instagram, and there she was on stories with the beverage rep, toasting to transparency and community. My mouth tasted like pennies. I knew the conversation wouldn't save us. It was time to plan an ending. Before there's revenge, there's rehearsal. Before you step on stage with a mic, there's the bathroom mirror, the throat clearing, the decision to be louder than your shaking hands. I started with the facts. Facts are solid. You can build furniture with them. I printed the DMs and invoices and tucked them into a blue accordion folder like I was packing a school project. Each tab had a name: rates, deliverables, sponsors, emails, texts. I added one called feelings and slipped in a single sheet with one line. She doesn't get to define me. That was for me. For 3 days, I pretended nothing was wrong. I recorded 2 episodes, smiled through an ad read for a candle company, and posed for a photo where Sloane kissed my cheek like we were twins. Every time she touched me, I had to remind myself not to flinch. Every time she said we, I translated it to me. She started arriving late. She started bringing a new assistant, a slick boy in monochrome with an expression like he had secrets. He introduced himself as Cam. He watched everything. He hovered, he fetched. He vanished when I looked directly at him. On day 4, the florist called again, now furious. "I want my money back," she said. "I'll make it happen," I said, and I meant it. I Venmo'd her from my personal account, stung by the unfairness of paying to clean someone else's mess. She cried, apologized, promised to send flowers to the studio for free. I told her not to. Keep your blooms, I thought. I will grow my own garden. That night, I opened my laptop to my folder of receipts. I clicked into the text tab and scrolled. The hurt came in waves like contractions of reality. There was Sloane telling Kay she was babysitting Jocelyn with busy work. There was Sloane mocking my age, my voice, my clothes. There was Sloane promising discounts if businesses booked the post-Jocelyn reboot. They weren't just replacing me. They'd set a date to erase me. I had to tell someone. I called my sister, who lives in Decatur and knows how to talk me down without talking down to me. "Do not go to war without a camera," she said. "And do not go to war alone." "War?" I whispered, startled by the word. "I just want the truth on the table." "That's war to people who live on lies," she said. "Do you have anyone inside?" I thought of Cam, sharp eyes, quieter than a shadow. I thought of his quick glances when Sloane boasted. I thought of how he'd nodded at me once like we shared a language. "Maybe," I said. The next day, we had a planning meeting for our big pop-up brunch, the one where ATL Amplify would show itself in flesh. Vendors with tables and banners, a step-and-repeat live podcast recordings, the beverage sponsor pouring mimosas. Sloane wanted to do it at a co-working space in Old Fourth Ward with a huge screen. "For the hype reel," she said. "We'll play all our best moments." She loved the sound of it. So did I, for entirely different reasons. As we broke, I lingered, fiddling with a cable like any woman who knows her way around a soundboard. Cam hovered. I didn't turn. I spoke to the cable. "How long have you worked for her?" 4 months, he said soft. "You like your job?" He paused. "I like rent." I turned, met his eyes, held them. "Do you like honesty?" He held my stare for 3 beats. "Yes." I lifted the blue folder 1/2 inch, just enough for him to see the tabs, then slid it back into my tote. He swallowed. "I shouldn't get involved." "You already are," I said gently. "You heard the vendors. You've seen the spreadsheets. You stand next to her when she says we about me. That makes you involved. We were 2 people holding a thread, a decision dangling between us. I'm not a hero," he said. "I didn't ask for one," I said. "I asked for a witness." He pressed his lips together, looking young, then older than his clothes. "I keep my voice memos on. All the time," he said, eyes flicking away. "For timestamps. For notes. For everything." My heart thudded once hard. "Are they relevant?" His nod was tiny. Painfully. "Will you send them to me?" He looked past me at the studio window, where the city moved like always, indifferent. "She'll fire me," he said. "She will anyway," I said. "When she doesn't need you to carry boxes of lies." He huffed a colorless laugh. "You talk like a pastor." "I talk like a woman who's done with whispers," I said. "Cam, I don't want to fight. I want to stop a theft." He studied my face like it was a test. Then he reached into his pocket and, with a movement so smooth it barely existed, he slid me a small USB drive. I didn't hear that, I said. You didn't, he replied. That night, I opened the files and sat alone in my living room listening to the soundtrack of Betrayal. Sloane's voice, syrupy and sharp, filled my house. Jocelyn's sentimental, she cooed in one. Sentimental people don't sue. They sermonize. She'll get over it, she said in another. She needs me. Her audience is loyal, but loyalty is fungible if you give it fresh packaging. My name in her mouth sounded like a brand concourse. Use, polish, sell. I paused when the audio shifted. Sloane talking to Kay, who I now knew was Kira, a PR consultant with a reptile's smile. We'll keep the ATL Amplify account, Sloane said. We'll keep the vendors. We'll ghost them for a month, then reintroduce with a new face. If they want refunds, I'll tell them Jocelyn was the bottleneck. Can you prove that? Kira asked. Proof is a function of confidence, Sloane replied. I'll post a black and white story with a thoughtful caption. They'll eat it. I clutched the throw pillow and counted the stitches like beads. The next morning, my inbox held an email from a sponsor contact, personal, not corporate. She was worried. She'd heard whispers that what we promised wasn't delivered. She liked me. She liked the show. She wanted to know if we were okay. I typed, deleted, typed again. We are not okay. I settled on, I'm looking into it and I will make this right. Thank you for reaching out to me directly. My finger hovered over send. I pressed it with the force of a vow. Sloane breezed into the studio an hour later, spritzing her wrists with antiperspirant like grace. She opened a gift box and held up new branded totes. For VIP vendors, she chirped. We'll fill them with sponsor products. The beverage rep is sending mixers. The skincare brand is sending minis. Look at us! Look at us, I did. I saw a woman who had built a mirror that only reflected her. I saw the girl inside her that needed to win at any cost. I saw her tilt her head toward me with affection so practiced it might have been real to her in the moment she needed it. We're going to do a run-through at the venue Friday, she said. You good to host the Q&A? I'll do more than host, I said, and she smiled, not hearing me. That night, in bed, I stared at the ceiling fan and felt the weight of what I was about to do settle, not cruel, but heavy. I counted people, the florist, the baker, the bookshop owner, the candle maker, the tea blender, the boutique owner who sent a DM at 2 a.m., the yoga teacher who wrote, "Is this what sisterhood is?" They were a chorus, and my job was to give them a stage. My fear arrived at 2:30, dressed as doubts. What if I misread something? What if the room turns on me? What if I become a meme? I put my hand on my chest and felt my heart answer, steady, old, reliable. I said to the dark, I am not a story they can write without me. I said it until my jaw loosened. I slept 2 hours. It was enough. On Friday, we walked into the venue, and the screen loomed like a moon. Imagine our hype reel, Sloane breathed, eyes glittering. All the testimonials, all the music? I'll write the script. You do the intro, I nodded. I'll handle the tech too, I said casually. She laughed. No, babe, we have AV. I like to double check, I said. And our AV guy, a sweet man named Micah who has known me for a decade, winked. Sloane didn't notice. She was busy adjusting imaginary strands of hair. We tested slides. We tested sound. We tested the moment where I would stand in front of a crowd and pivot the narrative so cleanly, it would feel like a choreography they always knew. I went home, opened my closet, and pulled out a black dress that made me feel like a pen. I laid my mother's pearls on top and whispered to them like they carried ancestral Wi-Fi. Keep me steady. I printed one more set of receipts because paper doesn't glitch when you need it most. I put them in the blue folder and slept for 3 unbroken hours. The morning of the brunch, the air over Atlanta was the particular bright of a day that wants to be remembered. I arrived early. Vendors unloaded. The room filled with the smell of coffee and new cardboard. Sloane arrived late again, this time with an armful of gift bags and that glow people mistake for goodness. She kissed my cheek for the camera. It left a sticky "see you later" on my skin. We took our places. The beverage rep tested the mic and grinned at me like we were in on the same secret. We weren't, but we were about to be. Welcome to ATL Amplify. Sloan sang and applause rose like bread. She introduced our mission. She invoked community. She said we enough to paint the room with fake glue. I stood holding my blue folder and waited for my turn. Now Jocelyn will share what makes this all possible, she said, sweeping her hand toward me like a magician inviting a volunteer. I stepped into the light. There's a hush a room learns when it senses truth coming. It isn't silence. It's intention. Every chair in that co-working space that had once held 1,000,000 laptops leaned a degree toward the screen. The screen went black, then white, then text, not my hype reel. A header. Thread with Kira. Use Jocelyn's image, then drop her. The date stamped in the corner like proof of weather. You could feel the air tighten into a new shape. I didn't look at Sloan. I looked at the florist in the third row and watched her eyes rise like someone finally found the switch. I looked at Tasha from the bookshop and saw her jaw set, a long story rearranging itself in the present tense. I read, calm as Sunday. She'll be grateful for scraps. The women empowerment shtick is her brand. She won't ask questions. I let it hang, not milking it, not sweetening it. A murmur rippled. Sloan recovered fast. She laughed into her mic, an actress caught by a lighting cue. "Oh my God, you guys," she trilled. "This is so out of context." "Jocelyn, honey, let's not." I raised a hand without looking at her. My voice stayed gentle. "We'll make time for context," I said. "Right now, we're doing content." Slide 2. A cluster of DMs. Vendor names redacted, amounts not. Premium slot, $500. I read. Public price, $200. I flipped to an email. Executive rate justified due to high demand. Flip. A Venmo to Sloan's LLC with the note, "For ATL Amplify listing." The beverage rep's smile fell off like a sticker in heat. Sloan's voice pitched higher. "Joe, you're being dramatic." I looked at her then, truly, and saw the girl who had kept secrets because secrets felt like currency. I also saw the woman beside her, the PR consultant Kira, stiff as a brand deck. "Dramatic is a soft cushion for ugly facts," I said. I flipped again. A text where my name was used to justify a surcharge. Another where a promised reel got lost in the queue, then was posted at 12:07 a.m. and deleted by 12:19 a.m. because engagement was embarrassing. A vendor's plea. I thought this was women supporting women. Sloan's reply, "It is. Next quarter." Someone in the back whispered, "Damn." I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I held the blue folder and gave the room the truth in slides, each a small, precise door. After the 5th, I pressed a key. The screen changed again. Audio, team meeting, date. I hit play. Sloan's voice filled the room. Proof is a function of confidence. There it was, her worldview like a slogan. The room went still. She lunged then, the first crack in the performance. "Stop the feed," she said. "Micah, cut it." Micah looked at me. The feed stayed. "Let me contextualize," Sloan insisted. "These were brainstorms." Joe's twisting. "Were my Venmos brainstorms?" A vendor called, anger bright in her voice. "Were my missing tags brainstorms?" asked another. Kira stood, composure smoothing like a defensive hand over a tablecloth. "Everyone calm down," she said. "This is clearly a misunderstanding between partners." "Then let's understand it," I said. I held up the folder. Because this isn't an isolated error. It's a pattern. And patterns are choices wearing costumes. Applause, tentative, then real. My hands were steady. My mouth wasn't dry. Years of interviewing people who'd hurt and been hurt had taught me to hold my breath at the right moments. I let the room breathe, then filled it with the last piece. "I didn't want this," I said, looking at the vendors, the sponsors, the city that has held me up more times than it knows. I wanted to make a platform we could all stand on. But my name was used to sell what I do not stand for. So here's how this goes. I clicked once. The screen showed an email drafted to every vendor and sponsor, BCC's hidden, subject line, ATL Amplify Accounting and Make Good Plan. It outlined refunds. It offered public refeatures. It promised a transparent ledger that would live on a link anyone could see. It carried my signature alone. I am calling ATL Amplify to a halt, I said. Effective now. Any funds taken under its name that did not deliver what was promised will be returned. I have already refunded several out of pocket. The rest will follow. The ledger goes live at noon. You can refresh it and watch money move where it should have gone. A collective exhale more powerful than applause. And our show, I continued. Speak Plain will continue. Without Sloan. Sloan's face froze in something that used to be beauty, but now was stiff. You can't fire me here, she hissed, mic live. I looked at the room, then back to her. I'm not firing you, I said softly. You already quit when you chose yourself over the people we serve. If you post any of that audio, she snapped, you'll what? I asked, and my voice was almost kind because in that second I saw a woman trained to weaponize noise. Issue a statement? Call me bitter? Age shame me some more in a private chat? Somewhere someone laughed, and it broke the tension like a glass. I let it. Then I rapped. Vendors, I said. You'll receive an email after this with next steps. Sponsors, I understand if you pause. But if you value what you thought you were buying, real voices, real reach, real ethics, I'm right here. My studio's doors are open. No glossy captions. Just actual work. I nodded to Micah. The room's lights shifted. The screen went back to the event title. The moment was over. But something else had begun. Sloan stood there, stunned, rage trying to find its lines. Kira calculated pathways and found none. The beverage rep set down her glass like it had become complicated. People did something you can't fake. They started moving toward me, a hand on my arm. Thank you, eyes wet. I thought I was crazy. Voices respectful, angry, relieved. I knew it. I didn't want to be the only one. How did you find all this? What gave you the courage? What gave me the courage? The truth. And the fact that I am 52 and allergic to being erased. I glanced at Cam. He stood in the doorway, phone in hand, eyes shiny, neither smiling nor hiding. He nodded once. It said, we did it. I nodded back. It said, you were brave. I knew there would be fallout. I knew Sloan would spin. I knew the internet rewards dramatics and punishes nuance. I knew I would not sleep that night either. But I also knew something hewn. I had changed the story in the room where it mattered most. Within an hour, Sloan went live on Instagram. Of course she did. Her lighting was perfect. The caption, when envy goes public. She cried without tears and spoke without contrition, implying burnout, miscommunication, and a smear campaign coordinated by a bitter partner stuck in the past. I didn't watch in real time. People clipped it for me. The comments split like rivers do when they hit rock. Some flowed toward her, some rerouted around lies. I recognized the choreography, apologized to those who felt hurt, hint at sabotage, promise an internal audit, ask for privacy. Meanwhile, my inbox ran like a faucet someone forgot to turn off. Vendors sent confirmations, screenshots, bless yous. A few sent me the kind of prayers only women trade when they see each other's insides. The ledger went live at noon. Micah helped me set it up. Simple, readable, ugly in a way that says honest. Line items, amounts, statuses, movement. Each update pinged subscribers. You could refresh and watch as refunds went from pending to complete. It wasn't performative transparency. It was inland weather forecasting turned outward. People sent me messages like, I cried when I saw my line turn green. By evening, a local culture blog posted about drams at the women's pop-up, using my name and Sloan's like we were boxing opponents. The comments did their circus. I breathed through it. I didn't engage. Cam texted me a link with no message. It took me to a Dropbox folder labeled in his neutral, careful way, Meeting Audio Internal. Inside were more files than I expected. I clicked one. Sloan. If she confronts me, I'll say it was Kira's call. If she goes public, I'll post receipts of my own. Kira. What receipts? Sloan. I'll call vendors who owe me favors. I'll say Jocelyn isn't stable. Kira. Is she? Sloan. She's 52. That's instability in media. You'd think after hearing so much you'd run out of anger. Turns out anger has reservoirs. In another file, Sloan mapped out a pivot. We can launch Amplify 2.0 with a young black host. Optics will be bulletproof. We frame Jocelyn as gatekeeping. I sat there with my laptop open and thought about how your best friend can learn your values, then try to weaponize them against you. That's a special kind of betrayal, appropriating your care as a tactic. Cam texted again. Cam. I didn't want to tell you until you did your thing. But there's video too, he sent a link. It opened to footage of Sloan in our studio, late, lights soft, telling Kira into the camera like it was a confessional. If this blows back, we say it's a misunderstanding. If she proves otherwise, we cry. I called Cam. You saved this? I asked. I saved everything, he said. You asked for a witness. Why me? I asked, not as flattery, but as anthropology. Because you looked at me like I was a person, he said. Not a prop. That night in my kitchen, I cued one audio clip, just one, and posted it, 30 seconds long with no caption. It wasn't vengeance porn. It was a footnote to a moment already past. It was Sloan saying, "Proof is a function of confidence." It was the universe enjoying irony. The next morning, my email pinged with a letter from the beverage sponsor, formal but warm. They were suspending collaboration until their legal team reviewed. The language used careful words that mean disappointment in business. At the end, my contact added a handwritten line scanned in. For what it's worth, I believe you. I sent back. I don't need to be believed to do the right thing. But thank you. Sloan's strategy shifted. She posted screenshots of our happy moments, text threads where I said, "Love you," photos of us laughing at the fair. The caption, "This is the woman calling me a thief." Her followers told me to die. They called me menopausal and jealous and churchy and tacky. They said I should be grateful for anyone cooling up my brand. I didn't cry, but my hands trembled enough to spill coffee on the counter. Then something happened I didn't expect. The vendors told their stories. Not just mine. On their own pages, in their own words, with their own receipts. A cascade of small voices sounds like rain until you realize it's a flood. It washed away the idea that this was a personal feud. It became what it had always been, a map of harm. A week passed. Refunds went out. The ledger turned greener. I filed a simple notice with our business partnership dissolving, speak plain as it was, and reforming with a new LLC in my name. I took a long shower where I let water drum on my shoulders like applause I could control. I called my mother and told her, and she said, "Baby, you did not betray a friend. You left a liar. The crisis taught me a math problem no brand deck will. What you lose by telling the truth versus what you gain by yourself." Sponsors dropped, yes. Others wrote quietly saying, "When the dust settles, call us." The show shifted. For 3 weeks, I recorded solo episodes. Grief, dealing with being targeted by spin, how to unmuddy water. Listeners sent messages saying, "Speak more." Numbers dipped, then steadied, then rose. People trust what they can see through. Sloan kept posting. Different tone daily. Contrition, rage, mysticism. A rumor went around that she planned her own pop-up. It didn't happen. Another rumor said she'd left Atlanta. She hadn't. She was there, walking past murals, reading comments, calculating the next move. Sometimes revenge is the absence of the future someone wrote for themselves. A month later, the Culture blog posted a follow-up with a headline that wasn't cute. ATL Amplify vendors receive refunds. Former co-host launches Clear Ledger initiative. Clear Ledger was my quiet answer to anyone who might misunderstand me. It was a simple policy. Every sponsor dollar that touched a community effort would show itself online in real time. Arriving, parking, leaving. It was not a brand. It was a practice. Boring and therefore trustworthy. I met with vendors not at events, but at their places, one by one. I stood in Tasha's bookshop and breathed that paper smell that makes you remember you're temporary. I bought 3 books and didn't accept the discount. You didn't have to do what you did, she told me. I did if I wanted to look at myself in mirrors with lights on, I said. We smiled. The knot in my stomach was gone. In its place was a cord I could pull to ring a bell when I needed clarity. You want to know about Cam, the ally I trusted? He kept recording. Not for me, he'd say for himself. For protection. He sent me his collection only after the event because he wanted me to move on facts, not fear. It turned out he'd captured the planning of my erasure, the fake empathy, the talk of finding a younger face. He'd captured the moment after the brunch when Sloane slumped into a chair and said, "Why didn't she cry?" Kira answered, "Because she isn't the kind of woman you think she is." He quit 2 weeks later. I wrote him a recommendation letter that just said, "Cam has excellent instincts for truth. Hire him if you want your company to have a conscience." And the projector? It wasn't spite. It was service. Because the women in that room deserved to see what was being done in their name before they were asked to clap. Sometimes revenge isn't a dagger. It's daylight. I met the unknown texter at a diner with cracked vinyl booths and waitresses who call you baby, like they mean it. She was young. She was shaking. She told me the kinds of stories that make you realize your experience wasn't personal. It was a template. How Sloane learned what language moved people and used it like stickers on a machine. How she collected favors like beads. How she practiced tears. We finished our eggs. I asked her what she wanted. She said, "Not this to happen again." I told her the only honest answer. It will. But not with me. At home, I turned off my phone. I poured tea. I looked out at a yard that needed work and felt gratitude like a physical warmth. Not for the hurt, but for the survival. For the chance to choose myself in public. For the women who met my receipts with their own. For a city that lets you start over without making you live an apology. Sometimes people ask me, was it worth the mess? The refunds, the lost deals, the trolls, the long nights, the voice shaking in a room full of faces. I tell them about the florist's flowers arriving at the studio, no charge, not as a debt settled but as delight. I tell them about the bookshop girl who said she felt less alone. I tell them about the ledger, mundane and green. I tell them about the knot in my stomach that isn't there anymore. Payback wasn't the point. Justice was. And justice done right is boring after the fireworks. It's emails answered. It's money moved. It's quiet sleep. If you're listening because your friend is holding a pretty knife behind her back, I want you to hear me. You are not crazy. Keep your receipts. When the time comes, show them. You don't owe anyone your silent complicity. That isn't friendship. That's fealty. They thought I would stay quiet. They forgot I have a mic. If this story hit you in the chest, if you've been made to doubt your own eyes, hit like, subscribe, and share it with the person who needs proof that calm does not equal weak. Drop your own receipt moments in the comments. Your voice might be the one someone is waiting for.